What's good, everybody? And I think it's about time that I give my very honest thoughts 1 week into playing Duet Night Abyss. Now, bearing in mind, I was 2 days late to the party, I was on vacation, I was traveling home, I was sick, but then I've basically, apart from yesterday, been playing this game pretty much non-stop. You can have a quick look at my progression over here. I'm trial rank 55, almost 56, which is a mega W. You can see I've got 11 out of 18 characters, 19 weapons, 27 Junimons. I'm lacking on the Junimons aspects, and I've grinded out almost half of the wedges, 221 demon wedges, and I have also done the entire story. You can see right here, you can see all my characters. Here they all are. A lot of them ascended up to 60 right now and leveled. I'm not missing that many right now. I've got weapons, again, is a work in progress, okay, because they're expensive to make. So I've really been grinding, and I've been grinding hard. I like to think I'm now considering myself a hardcore Duet Night Abyss player at this point. The amount of like real life hours I'm putting in almost feels like a job, and that's crazy, and I'm crazy. But I'm here to tell you how I've been feeling about the whole game. I'm going to start with the first thing, and that is story. I'm being genuinely totally honest with you when I say that Duet Night Abyss has one of the best 1.0 quest experiences I've had in one of these anime games. I would say anime gacha games, but you know what I mean. The games like Genshin Impact, Wuthering Waves, Honkai Star Rail, Duet Night Abyss has such a solid story. The first chapter, or chapter 0, however you want to call it, we all call it the first chapter, it was quite slow to get going. It did take a minute to pick up, but by the end of it, I was very curious, especially with the whole Psyche situation, and then Rhythm comes along, and I'm like, okay, my ears now picked up. The next chapter, again, all the characters that we meet, the Forsaken that we finally, you know, see for the first time, and they kind of like betray us, and we play as the Solarian MC for a bit, and I loved how that chapter felt. The story so much was kind of so-so. It was fun and interactive, and I like how it progressed, but I loved even more how interactive the story was to the gameplay. It wasn't just go to an area and defeat enemies all the time. It was like, oh, you have to go and do this puzzle and go and do this thing, go and interact with the world in some way in order to progress the quest. And to me, there was just enough like yap to gameplay ratio that for me really tickled an itch in my brain, and I was like, actually that's pretty good, that's pretty nice. And yeah, I just really liked how there were a lot of puzzles, things to do, and it wasn't just let's just observe and press the story for like 20 minutes, go to another room, more story, go to another room. It didn't feel overwhelming, and the story itself really started to pick up a lot for me in the second chapter. I'm like, oh, there are characters here that I really care about. And again, there's this overwhelming feel. Again, this is spoiler territory, so if you haven't done the story, maybe skip to the next part of this video. There'll be timestamps, you can skip to the next part. I really like the fact that Duet Night Abyss is not afraid to embrace character deaths. We don't see this in the other games because that means they get written out of a story in some way, and people might feel less inclined to pull for them in the gacha sense, or they might feel less inclined to get them, or for whatever reason it may be. But here it adds like a lot of weight. Like Psyche's like death was like, it was kind of emotional, and I was like, oh my god, that's like tugging on the heartstrings quite a bit. And then I really wanted to pull for her and grind for her afterwards. And then we go to the second chapter, or chapter 3, technically chapter 2, but you know. And the ending of that quest, when we have blues, we have Rhythm, Fantasio. I don't think I've experienced a 1.0 quest. Maybe Bellabog in Honkai Star Rail, maybe. Be that gripping. The twists were amazing. And I just really loved, I genuinely loved so much the ending to that story. And again, I love the fact that they're not afraid to play with death and play at people's heartstrings. I will say the first half of that last chapter was kind of slow, and I remember thinking to myself, Ooh, I wish it kind of picked up now because I'm starting to feel it getting a little bit slow. And guess what happened? The story started picking up. As soon as I started to feel like it was dragging, it kicked into gear. And that is perfect. That is exactly kind of what you want to do. Make sure you're given the exposition that you need, and then it picks up when you need it to, so you really feel, you get locked in and you really feel that drive to continue on to go through the story. I think was good. Do I think the story needs a bit of work? Maybe not on the plot, but on things like character animations could deal with some work. The NPCs, especially when they're like it's a bit weird, right? And it's definitely way lower quality than some of the other like anime games on the market. I think that's where one of Duet Night Abyss's weakness comes in. The actual fidelity of the character models themselves and the NPCs and the people you interact with could deal with more, could have more to them, because sometimes it does look a bit goofy. If they are characters that we are like interacting with during the story, I feel like those NPCs should be given the same like face or mouth model like fidelity as like some of the main characters that you play, because you're gonna have to look at them a lot, right? Maybe for other side quest NPCs, whatever, keep them with the PNG mouths, but if we're interacting with them a lot in the story, I think it's good to give them like proper mouth movements. That's just how I feel about that one. But the final chapter was so good. And Fantasia, where he does his operatic ending, oh my god, that was so cinema. That was so cinema and so cool, and I can't wait to grind for him and pull for him when I can pull for him. You know, grind for him. You know what I mean? Sorry, I'm gacha brain pilled. When I can, because he was just so awesome. And honestly, I think my favorite character. Like, that whole storyline was amazing. And again, they're not afraid to play with really dark themes in Duet Night Abyss. Whether it's the feeling of deaths occurring, or dealing with dark topics such as kind of like discrimination is a huge driving force, right? The whole plot line is about discrimination between the Charons and the Solarians and the Legion and the Empire. It's all of it comes together. And honestly, I think they're doing a really good job with their narrative, which is really strong for a 1.0 beginning. It was very obvious throughout all the betas and all the material they're putting out. They care a lot about how their narrative system works. And boy, were they right, because it is so goddamn good. So that's my overall thoughts about the story. One of the best story experiences that I've had in one of these. Secondly, another thing that I really like about Duet Night Abyss, the grind to trial rank 45 is actually pretty straightforward, and you can do it pretty quickly in a couple of days. Even if you're not pushing too hard, it's pretty easily doable. Just by grinding out the characters by the secret clues, by ascending them and ranking up their weapons, you can get to trial rank 45 pretty quickly. And because you can do that pretty quickly and pretty reasonably, I was worried that it would take way too long and people would be grinding for a long time in this game. But the rate that you can get a new character by secret letters is an hour to 90 minutes kind of max. It won't take much more than that. Same thing for weapons. What is costly is ascending or forging weapons, but actually grinding the blueprints for weapons isn't too bad. And I like that the grind doesn't take a lot, because you can do a lot of the end game, aka immersive theater, once you hit trial rank 45. Once you hit 45, you could do all of classic, all of featured, and maybe 1 or 2 acts of the immortal just by hitting rank 45. So you're going to be able, if you're lucky like me, I was lucky, I was able to get Psyche just by doing the featured repertoire. So you're still able to get characters even at the lower ranks. You don't have to grind out to rank 55 for your Psyche. Again, if you're lucky, some people are going to be more unlucky and they'll be able to, but you still have a shot of doing it even when you're at a lower rank, which is awesome. As you can see, I've almost maxed out my immersive theater. I'm getting there, I'm super close. And once I've done that, I feel like I've won until Fina comes out, which is for the next reset in what, 18 days. So I'm ahead of schedule at this point. I'm way ahead of schedule. So I really like that basically a lot of the content is unlocked for you, even at that trial rank. And even if you go to some of the nocturnal echoes, right? Grinding for getting to the point where you have to grind like all these characters is pretty easy. Like you don't have to be trial rank 55 or be something insane to do these characters. The only exception is for Fantasio, where this only gets unlocked once you are level 80, which is like the max level. That's the only pain in the ass. That's the only character that seems to be not unlockable, which is so annoying, but I think it gets rotated into the shop. Don't quote me on that one. I don't know if I'm 100%, that might just be immersive theater, but if this is constantly locked at 80, I'm gonna be like, okay, that's a grind for the future. Clearly the devs have put that in there for you to grind away into the future. I'm just sad that like we experienced him in the story, but I can't grind for him. At the time where I care about him most, I can't grind for him, and that feels like kind of bad. I don't like that. I want him now, but that might just be me and wanting to be greedy and stupid, okay? No, I want things now. It's me crying, throwing my toys at the pram, or I could just spend some money and get him, which I might do. I've said I'm not gonna be free to play in this game. I've already spent money in this game. So hey, maybe I might just spend for him because he looks goddamn fucking awesome. So yeah, I really like that most of the content is unlocked for you to do and is actually very accessible. While this game is a grind game, it doesn't feel overwhelming or that it limits you too much, and it's pretty easy to ascend characters enough at try rank 45 to do a lot of the content. And speaking upon that, the endgame is, I do feel, the right level of difficulty. I have not felt overwhelmingly frustrated at any particular point. Really, it's just like Immortal, specifically Act 6, where I was like actually getting tilted and frustrated a little bit. But everything else so far has been like totally fine and really fine. And I feel like I don't think things are way too hard. I think they're actually pretty balanced. If you're taking the time, right, to ascend your characters and farm the demon wedges. You see my psyche here. I've got a lot of tracks, which I didn't necessarily need to do, but here we go. I built my psyche. I grinded the demon wedges. I added them in. I was able to progress even more. She's built pretty, she's built pretty nicely. And I think it's just, a bit of a win. And I think overall the balance for immersive theater, I think they've actually gotten right. And we know that a lot of these games, when they come out, their end games tend to be a bit not balanced. People aren't really too sure. Everyone's trying it out for the first time, but I've not felt any issues, and I think they're actually doing a good job. And guys, it's only been a week. It's been 1 week and I've almost finished it. I've almost finished the main end game that they have. So it's like, this game is very, very generous, and the fact that you can get so many of the psyche like secret letters is insane. And I think they've just done a really, really, really good job in maintaining this, and the balance has just been really good, which is a good sign. When it comes to these things, balance is a good thing. There might be something to be said for like characters themselves and how their skills are balanced, but I think I might make a separate video on that of like are characters good to use, and is it a problem with their kit, or is this something the devs could do? But like, that's another story. But in terms of endgame balance, I think they've actually hit the nail on the head with it, and I think that's a really, really good thing. I also love that there is just a lot to do in this game. Like, it is 100% a grind game, and there is absolutely a lot of things for you to do, but there's a lot that you can grind for. You can grind for character ascension, weapon ascension, character level, weapon level. You can grind genie mons. You can grind like your demon wedges. You can grinding materials to forge your weapons with. There's so many different things to grind for, and some people might see that as a negative, but some people also see it as a positive in this community. If you don't like grinding, this game is not for you just inherently. Like, sometimes I get a bit frustrated by it, but as soon as I start grinding, 3 hours have gone. You know, I'm one of those, like, oh, I hate the fucking grind, but I'm sitting there for like 3 hours just totally locked into the game. Like, come on, like, who am I kidding myself? I just like things immediately, right? But I still do the grind and I still enjoy it when I'm like in that locked in mode. And I like there's so much for you to do. You can actually spend hours in this game. I recommend not doing that. I recommend going outside, maybe getting laid, maybe touching grass. That's all really good. But the grind is annoyingly addictive. The grind is really annoyingly addictive, but I love the fact there is so much for you to do. Your commissions, there's so many, the covert commissions to grind for your characters or weapons or demon wedges, and it doesn't take that long. Like I said, only maybe 90 minutes for like a blueprint of anything you need or a character once you have the secret letter clues is actually really nice. The only thing that I don't like for grinding is the bounty commissions, okay? I recommend doing these at the higher level so you can get more per run. Do it in co-op because it takes so long single player and you will want to rip your hair out. Like, it could take like 20 minutes, half an hour, depending like where you're at in level. Do it in co-op because otherwise it just takes so long. It takes so long to do, but these are where you get the blueprints for your demon wedges. And now the thing that I don't like the most about this is that there's no guarantee what you're going to get, right? Like the normal demon wedge runs, it is no guarantee what you're going to get, and it could take you weeks upon weeks to get the gold demon wedge of your choice, okay? Which is fine because you need to grind 4 or 5 of the demon wedges to unlock the gold demon wedge in the first place. So just go grind your demon wedges in the meantime, right? Until you can even like gold them to like +5. But it's just annoying that it could literally be the case you could go a whole year without not getting the gold demon wedge that you want. But it seems to be, considering that I'm basically almost doing all the content in immersive theater without having to need to do that so far, I'd say it's fine, and it doesn't matter that I haven't particularly gotten all the gold ones yet. You don't need to. You don't need to get fully gold demon wedges in order to do it. Do I have 2 so far on my psyche? Yes, I do. But like, you don't need a full kit of gold seemingly to do the endgame content, which again, I think is another massive W on the way that they've been doing that grind. Now, on to the things that I dislike. And the main thing for me, we have so many different weapons that look awesome and they do awesome things, especially guns. There are so many guns that play in a really, really fun way, right? Like, you have the big grenade launchers, you have the big like a machine gun type of weapons. You have weapons that look really cool, but yet there's no character that actually utilizes gunplay. The gunplay they've actually done pretty well. It actually feels pretty nice. But ranged weapons, on the whole, mostly, are absolutely useless. And we never really end up using them with our main DPSs in combat. For example, if you're playing Psyche, it's all about consonance weapons. Lyn, all about consonance weapons. We're very rarely actually using the ranged weapons. So do they work? Sometimes, sure. Do they do damage? Sometimes. But not comparable to skills. And I just think it's a shame that these weapons that you grind for, we're only really grinding for the weapon skills and not really just because they're fun to use. You know, this game was kind of promoted as you can use your melee and ranged weapons and you have your character skills, but like, we never really use our melee weapon or our ranged weapons, really. And I just think that's like kind of sad, and I hope we get characters that actually want to be using their ranged weapons. Like Tabitha, you have to use a ranged weapon for her to get her maximum like tentacles, so they have incentive to like use a ranged weapon. But I kind of wish there was more of a reason to, because they've got demon wedges, for God's sakes. That you can grind demon wedges to put on your guns. But what is the point when your characters don't care about, like Psyche? Psyche does not care about the demon wedges on her guns that she uses whatsoever. Like, they mean nothing because you never use them. So it's like, what is the point of having all this system if there's no character that utilize them? And I think that's a miss. I do. I think that's one of the biggest misses in DNA. And I could say the same thing for the melee weapons, right? They're really all there for the weapon skills. And that's one of the main things that I don't particularly like. The second thing that is a thing for me, after trial rank 55, the grind is very heavy. It just because it goes from like good grind to like now I'm starting to feel it, but that is the whole point of the game. It's not really negative, it's just like the reality and the fact from getting from 55 to 60 is going to take a lot of time, a lot of hours, a lot of ranking. Is as soon as you get to 55, everything becomes so much more expensive. Skills especially are so expensive to level up for every single character. Ascension materials become overwhelmingly expensive. And by the way, if you're forging things a lot from one thing to another, I'd recommend actually just farming like the purples overall rather than forging blues to purples. It's actually more cost efficient to do that in a lot of instances. The grind is like, just be aware, it's not a negative necessarily, but just be aware that the intensity picks up a lot. But this is a game that's meant to be played over a long period of time, and like I said, if you could basically do all the content without having to get to 60, you're good, you're fine, and it's not really a problem. Okay, and it's not really a problem. So this is very much like the lock-in moment. The other issue that I have is that this game does have quite a lot of bugs. I've seen quite a lot in the immersive theater specifically, where like I will want to restart the battle, right? Because as we all know, if you don't want to have to redo all the trials again, you can click the restart battle button once you press escape, and it does that. And sometimes that doesn't work. And you're like, I'm on trial 4, I want to restart, I don't want to do the whole thing again, oh my god, it's gonna take me like 10 minutes to get back, and sometimes it doesn't work. And that's just like the most infuriating bug that I've come across, because it actually genuinely tilts me and makes me rage. I don't like it. I also don't like the fact that we can restart the battle at any time during like the trials, but as soon as you die, you have to start from the beginning. And I'm like, why not just have a restart from where you are button to save us like 10 minutes to get back to where we were anyway? Like, I don't see why that would necessarily be a problem. Like, there was one time I was doing one of the last bosses on Eclosioner and I got one shot, and I'm like, well, I had like, I don't know, it just, if I could restart the battle at any point, why not just give me a restart battle even if I die? I don't think it's that big of a deal. I genuinely don't. All I'm doing is saving 10 minutes. It's not like it's a punishment. Oh, I have to spend 10 minutes to get back to where I was, where I could have just restarted. I don't know. I just think it's one of those silly things that I think it doesn't really matter if it's there. So I'd say that would be good to add that in. Mystic Maze is really nice. Mystic Maze, I've only done it once through so far, but I really like how they've done this, and it's actually quite a fun. It's quite a fun like roguelike mode. I think every one of these games is implementing its own roguelike. It's fun, and it lets you, you know, mess around with characters in new ways that you wouldn't expect to. And I always think that's a W, and I hope they improve on it, because those things can always be really like fun to do for like replayability and content, which I think is really nice. I think you could tell I'm mostly positive about Duet Night Abyss. I think my main concerns, like I said, is some of the bugs, the weapons not being as like useful, but I do wish the character models just had a little bit more to them. I think compared to other anime games, I'm gonna say like Woowa, there's definitely like a difference in quality compared to some others, especially expressions, mouth movements, and animations. Oh, I forgot to mention the mobility. I actually quite like the mobility. I've become a fan. The helix sleeping, I keep doing that in all the other games, and I'm like, oh my god, it doesn't work anymore, and I really want it back. There's something just very satisfying about it, which I think is a big thing. And oh, another good thing, I do like that they've actually addressed in one of their like Death Note like update things that they're adding more skins and cosmetics into the game out of popular request. You're welcome. My video on I'm scared about DNA monetization and they're not having enough skins and like weapon stuff is now, they've noticed this and it's now a reality. That was all me, by the way. You have me to thank you. So write in the comments, oh my god, thank you Captain for saving Duet Night Abyss. I'm joking, obviously. But they're adding more stuff to the shop, which is really nice, and more cosmetics. I think this game is really going to thrive on its cosmetics. They need to fix their bloody co-op. Fix your co-op so it's not as laggy and buggy, and fix the co-op when you're in the square where you're around everyone, because oh my god, it's the most buggy thing I've ever seen. Once they nail that down and make the co-op experience a lot better, I think this game is gonna like thrive a lot more, because the games that rely on community is a lot. There's a lot of like a really like niche hardcore community behind Duet Night Abyss already, for what I've seen on Twitter. I know a lot of you have come from my Twitter posts from Twitter and on YouTube and all that that lot. There's like a lot of people who are really into this game, and the sooner they could fix their co-op and make it less laggy and playable, the better for the game, where people can show off their new skins they're gonna add and their customizations. And I think the game is gonna, you know, have a lot of fun with doing that. So I think that's something to look for. But overall, I'm really happy with the game so far. I'm really happy. Also, the Genie Mon like stuff is really cool. This system, I think, is a W. It's a good way to give you like additional stats in your fights too. I just think it's a W. So honestly, after 1 week, I'm thoroughly impressed with how I'm feeling with Duet Night Abyss. The balance, the story, the gameplay, the grind is just the right amount of grind. I can see myself getting burnt out though. Like I can. Now, once I've cleared Immersive Theater, I'm gonna feel way less pressure to like grind and get to level 60, because I don't have to. I don't need to. I can already do all the content. I don't feel that pressure. So I'm probably gonna cut back a bit once I've like finished the Immortal Theater. But I'm not gonna stop like playing and getting new characters and grinding them out and making sure I unlock everything, because that's the fun of it, right? That's the fun of the game. So I'm very happy. And also thank you to everyone who has stuck around for my DNA content. I genuinely thought no one would watch. I genuinely thought no one would watch my videos or care about my tweets, but turns out quite a lot of you do. So thank you for choosing me as a Duet Night Abyss creator, I guess I can call myself now as well, to do that. So I appreciate y'all. Have a great one, and I'll see you next week for another update. But see you on the next one. Peace.
Twitch.tv/Captain Cabinetz, Captain Cabinetz.